I'm going to call to order the meeting of the Weed Beach, Meadow, and Trail Working Group of the Darien Parks and Recreation Commission. Special meeting agenda, Tuesday, 3 p.m., May 10th, 2022 on GoTo meeting. I think we don't have minutes from the last meeting, right? Is that what we figured out? Well,
Patty, and poor thing, I'm assuming that she's doing minutes, but Patty's doing minutes for all these different things. So
I said I know that I was doing minutes for other ones. I'm not sure if I had volunteered to do that. I always take minutes, so I will go back and do those for you. And this meeting didn't get, we didn't get the heads up. I know it was on our agenda, but that's why I love reminders. We'll make sure that you have that.
okay, for next meeting.
okay.
Yeah, and it's also on channel 79, right? Because it was filmed.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thanks, Patty, for agreeing to help with that. And sorry about the confusion with the meeting time and everything. I guess the next order is public comment. Do we have any public comment?
Nothing came in my way.
And then after that, we're up to review and discuss updated quote from Weston and Sampson. I understand Pam just sent everybody the most recent version of this. That's just for the iPay, right? Is that the price for this?
That was the only change.
Mm-hmm. So it's a bit of a difference. I mean, about 180,000, would you say? Give or take, 170-ish, right?
Yeah, give or take.
I know that Dan's not on the phone, but I wonder in terms of resilience, like which one, in terms of the longevity, I can't remember. He did do a chart one time for us, didn't he? Concrete versus, I would think the concrete would last longer, right? Is that what your sense is?
Yes. But iPay would, I believe we're pronouncing it correctly, but iPay is also a very sturdy base as well.
It's very, very, I mean, it's used very often for docks, because they're in or around the water. So it's considered very durable. Our deck is ePay. It's 20 plus years old. You have to stain it every few years, but it's hard. The wood is hard as a rock. You can't just nail into it. You have to drill into it. It's very hard, durable wood.
You just mentioned you do stain it or do something to it, Lori?
We do, just to make it low. I mean, you could not, and then it just becomes more
gray,
weathered looking. But we just, because it's our house, we have it restained every power washed every 2 to 3 years. But if you don't mind, just a duller, more natural finish, which at the beach on the boardwalk probably would be fine. You could do that. It's very durable.
Can I ask a question? I get the surface part of it being durable. Do you remember? I don't remember the discussion about the underpinning of it. Is it the same as the underpinning for what the concrete was? I don't remember. You? Anybody? On the beach?
I don't specifically, but I would think it would have to be, because it's got to be anchored into something so that it can, not blow up or be moved, the wind with the winds and any, if we were to have a big tide event that went up that far.
I could speak to Guilford has that particular wood on their boardwalk, and it's been in place, I want to say 10 years right now. It still looks great.
Pam, I was going to ask, it'd probably be helpful as everybody does their due diligence, and I know you have all these contacts with the directors around, what they use, if we could get a peer group analysis of 5 towns, what they use, and the maintenance, because as we all know, it's through donations, through town and everything else, it's great, but then there's always a maintenance cost. So we do have to be factoring that in for the budget long term. So that's why it was helpful that Lori said she really just stains it every 3 years or so, but other places don't and just let it appear more natural. So it'd be really interesting to see what other people do at their beaches.
And I can also, I think that's a great idea. And I also think, I'm certain that Rick Maynard, the director of Guilford, wouldn't mind jumping on a virtual call here and speaking about their boardwalk.
That would be helpful.
I can invite him to the next one.
Do we know, I don't know if Susan, you probably don't remember this, the decking all around the pavilion? What is that?
Isn't it Trex? I can't remember now. I can't, is it, I think it's like, it's some kind of, it's not wood, right? Yeah.
Well, we can ask Sandy. He's on the line. Sandy, do you know what type of?
I don't know if it's Trex, but it's plastic, not
Plastic.
wood.
It's not
Yeah.
wood, okay.
It's man-made of some sort. Yeah. You wanted low maintenance there too. I guess the only other issue I have with the wood, I have some of that on my deck too. When it gets wet, it sometimes does get a little slippery. I think like when there's a little bit of, I don't think there's no like texture to it. So that's something to think about. And I think the concrete product has like a, like more like, you know what I mean? There's like a grit, like there's a little bit of a grit on it, I believe. I don't remember exactly, but
The
you might.
Ipe gets very, very hot. You cannot walk barefoot on it in the summer. Like you cannot. It's like burning.
Well, then that's a problem.
It's very hot.
That's going to be with any product, to be honest with you, especially on the beach with the sun hitting it.
Yeah, but concrete is not. Concrete is cool.
Yeah, probably it's harder to heat it up to that temperature that wood is going to be.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it would be interesting if Dan, maybe next time he could provide us with like a sample of what the concrete would be. I feel like we saw it at the very beginning that they gave us pictures, and that's why concrete was one of the ones that we kind of looked at. I just didn't realize they look like they're close and relatively. I mean, it's a lot of money, but if we're looking long term, and you know, if there are other factors, we're only going to do it once. I'd rather make sure we do all the research on that product as much as possible. Okay, so
Susan, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Or a comment, I should say. Lori, you were saying your deck is Ipe or Ipe wood, and it's
Yep.
now in Guilford, which is interesting. It'd be really interesting to have Rick speak, because I have never witnessed it being hot, and it's right on their beach, and people are back and forth and back and forth. So that's very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, so hot. Like so hot. Like I've already had it this year, and we're not even in the really hot season where I went tootling out there on a nice day barefoot, and I was like, oh yeah, I mean, you cannot walk on it.
So I wonder what the difference is between these. Yeah, so it'll be very interesting to have Rick here.
Yeah. So, and especially with kids, you'd have to be aware of that, because I remember back when my granddaughter was like 2 or so, she wasn't really talking yet, and we were out, whatever. And I just like naturally always have flip-flops on or something. And she came tootling up in the deck, and all of a sudden she was like, you know, you could see something was upsetting in your one. And I was like, oh, you know, I realized she was barefoot on the deck. I was like, but it's very, very hot.
I wonder if the stain has anything to do with it.
It might, Patty, because ours is stained fairly dark. So that is possible. But I think that would be worth
And
investigating.
Guilford's is very faded from the sun.
Yeah.
And just natural looking. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That would be great if we could find out
And I
more about
wonder if
that.
Sandy can speak to the maintenance of the current decking that we have.
I mean, really, there's not a lot. The only that I've noticed with the decking, especially on the stairs going out to the beach, like those wide stairs in front of the towers there, over time, the span from the beach gets blown up and, you know, drifting underneath and kind of pops the slats up. And I mean, it took a while for that to start happening, but that's really the only, I guess, complaint I have about it. I guess that's going to happen with anything. It blows everywhere. You know, the weather conditions down there are kind of the harshest in the town. So, but other than that, it's pretty much maintenance free. Easy to clean, easy to blow, you know, sand off the top, and yeah, no, it's been good.
And Sandy, is that the same decking as around the paddle hut and around all the paddle courts?
Yes, I believe it's the exact same, even the same
Same.
color.
And I wonder why that surface wasn't considered for the boardwalk. or if that's just, I don't know. That's an interesting question.
I mean, it obviously depends on how near to the ground, but the thing I would see having that be surface for the boardwalk is the sand kind of migrating underneath and pushing the planks up. And then there's the other thing to consider. Like right now, I believe there's about 5 entrances onto the beach. Most of them are used for walking, pedestrians just walking to the beach. But we use, as for our maintenance department, 2 of them to drive our heavy equipment, our tractor, our loader, and sometimes even our dump trucks onto the beach. Between in those 2 entrance areas, it would be something a little more sturdier than that plastic deck because we have to be able to drive over it.
Right. I remember Dan talking about that during the planning process or design.
And Pam, and Sandy, that was one of the discussions, that Susan and the rest talked about. The first time we got these numbers, they were so high. We were looking to see if there was a way to make them less. And that was, I think the feedback was they were factoring in really heavy equipment on kind of going on the boardwalk. And then there was a discussion about how heavy is equipment? Does it really need to go everywhere? Or are there, areas where, so when you're doing when you're using the blower, that's not a heavy piece of equipment. Is that right?
Sandy? Our down blowers aren't that heavy. I would say, I mean, we're talking about just the boardwalk, the beach portion. It would only need to be probably 2, maybe 10 to 15 foot that have to support, a 60-pound truck or tractor. As far as in the other areas of the park, I mean, we do have to take our equipment and our trucks everywhere, not all the time, but I mean, specifically just dealing with the trees. We have trees come down or something kind of hung in the woods. We have to be able to drive, kind of past the right when we first come in. I have trucks all all through there, in various places if, we have, issues with trees. But I mean, for the most part, it's just that the main middle entrance going on the beach and the one far to the left where we have to be able to get access to with big equipment.
Can I just ask you, because you were breaking up and I'm just writing this down for the notes. You said, so only those 2 those entrances that you described, and you said likely 10 to 15 feet more. You're talking about additional?
Just the width, that width going to the beach, yeah.
Okay, and then what cut out was the part when you said for a what pound truck?
Our dump trucks, they weigh approximately 16,000 pounds. That's just, if you're looking for a weight.
That's what I needed. 1,000.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ladies, I have a question. Does it make sense, particularly from a cost perspective, to move those tall reeds and expand the actual beach before installing the boardwalk?
You mean get rid of the dunes?
Those reeds were going to get moved to where the wetlands were in the back, and the actual beach was going to be broadened and so on?
Yes. And your point is that we would do that design first before
putting in the boardwalk.
Right. Well, the design, I don't know exactly in the order of which construction would happen right now, but it's certainly the design is taking in consideration the additional beach and additional sand, we should say, right? That's all filled in. That's part of the expansion of where that old crumbling rock wall is. That would be removed, and additional sand would be built up. Well, the land would be built up, filled in, and then covered with sand to extend the beach. But where those weeds are right now, that's really more part, that those will be filled, and that's part of the rolling hill.
So they are not going to be moved.
Not literally moved, not literally moved. They'll just be, wetland will be replanted on the other side to extend the wetland over there, but they're not literally going to move it. You understand?
Gotta
what
get
I'm
rid
saying?
of it.
Yeah.
Get rid of it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again,
They
Yes.
gotta replace it with like, so they'll do that next to what the existing wetland on the far side of that property.
okay.
Correct.
I don't know. It seems to me that if you expanded the beach, that would kind of like be a logical first step before you laid a boardwalk down.
Yes, and as I said, those are designs that you're looking at. So really nothing in terms of construction, order of construction has even been discussed at this point. So I would assume as much that that would be all done because the boardwalk would be incorporated in that area. But we haven't really gotten that far.
Do we have a number in terms of how much it will cost to level that wall and move in all that extra sand?
We have the probable cost that was sent to everybody. And my apologies, I sent it only 30 minutes ago, the updated one. But even with our other, probable cost that Dan had shared with us a month ago, everything's broken down in there.
Yeah, I gotta just say, we also have to always factor in, and Adele and I know this from when we looked at the probable cost of Highland and the estimates, and then we know how much additional, and Pam, you too, how much additional it costs us. So, those are great, fair questions to ask, Mary Louise, because somehow it goes up, not down.
Yeah.
I have a question. I have a hard time, well, maybe you guys walk through this before I joined the group, but exactly what now is meant to be asphalt as far as walking paths? What's meant to be something else? What's meant to be wood chips? And so that I understand what these costs are related to.
Right. So
Kind of straightforward.
right. At one of the very first meetings is when we really tried to make mindful changes to see if we could reduce the cost of the project. And we talked about reducing the width of the paths. We talked about removing the asphalt material and putting in a material that's very similar to what's at Waveney Park.
Okay, so all of the asphalt is gone then?
No.
Other than in a parking area?
No. So,
okay, keep walking me.
So the pathway that encircles the entire property would be done with I don't want to say crushed stone, but a stone-like substance that holds up better. And that substance was at Waveney Park, from what I understand. And it is not wheelchair ADA accessible, but I personally, we discussed the fact that we would keep in ADA accessibility pathways, which would be asphalt, in the heart of the project where the Meadow is, AKA short lane property.
Okay.
And in the design, you see sort of a crazy eight, that goes around the parcel and around the little area that would hold a bandstand or have events down there. But it's enough that someone could ride their tricycle in a small area, or wheelchair or a walker, and still be able to kind of gravitate amongst this area that there might be lots of things happening.
Can you say wait, that was again, Pam, where that specific area would be? Could you repeat that, please?
Sure, that the area would be surrounding the Meadow, or otherwise just known as short lane property. as well as the area that would be filled in and all the invasive weeds would be removed. And that was kind of the rolling hills. And that was the area where we would, we would gather, that people would be able to gather, and you could have a small community event, or there would be a few pavilions that people could have picnics under. But it's that asphalt pathway would be almost like a two circles, if you will, around the property. But it wouldn't be, it would connect to the large and circular pathway that would encircle the property.
And was the width changed on the asphalt, or is it the width, the original width that you talked about? Because I know if you were going to have to get to a sailing area, you need to be able to take a car, something big enough to bring a boat in. Yes, maybe. Yeah.
Yes. So we were looking at, originally we were looking anywhere up to 8 to 10 feet, because we were talking about the coming and going of traffic.
Mm-hmm.
So if it were someone coming on their tricycle, the people that were walking toward the tricycle didn't have to jump off the pathway. I have recently discussed with one of the residents near water their concerns about the width of this pathway. And I have, did get a chance to tell her that we have made some mindful changes to that, and that the only area would be near where we would have a gathering spot, that we would have some ADA accessible pathways. And they would be, nothing's in stone right now, but we would consider at least 6 to 8 feet. And certainly, I don't know exactly what the width of Highland Farm pathway is, but we do have plenty of complaints that pathway is not as wide as they would like it.
Yeah, Ed said that too. He felt like it should have been wider.
Right.
Pam, can I ask a question about coming in? A long time ago, watching the original meetings, years ago, there was talk about an entrance from the backside. Remember, like being able to bring in equipment, so you're not even coming in through the main gate entrance. There's an entrance on the other side. Is that still a factor? And if that's the case, is that the way people can bring in their sailboats for the junior league sailing? They'd be coming in on that back way.
Correct.
Yes.
That hasn't been changed.
That is, so that's correct.
Say that one more time.
Okay, so my question is, I remember them talking about like a second egress or entrance or exit where you could bring in equipment. I didn't know if that was going to be junior league sailing, bring in all their sailboats that they bring in, once a year, leave them and then take them out. Is that still a factor?
Yes, but if I heard you correctly, that entrance to be able to bring boats in, or our crew bringing their maintenance equipment in, was not through near water at all. It was an entrance through where we paved the dirt overflow parking right now. In the plans, we had paved the overflow parking area, and there was an entrance through there to get to the corner of where the junior sailing's boats were.
So you know how you have whatever is that part of the sewer or public works system? When we first pull in to Weed Beach, to the left are smaller brick buildings that I think are sewer related, I remember. So kind of close to that is what you're saying, like right past there, and then you cut around and go around the outside.
Correct. If my memory serves me correct, yes. But we were avoiding having to go down near water and
because that's a private association once you go into the bay.
That was the issue. There was a driveway that went to the house, but my recollection is that Jamie Stevenson had committed, and I don't know whether it was a verbal or a written commitment, that the town would not use that as an access point for the public into the park, because it is a private association. And then, I asked the question, and if I got the answer, I don't remember it. And I was like, well, by definition that the town owns Short Lane, does that make us sort of part of the association, but the association collects dues, and that's a whole different kettle of fish. So we really concluded that that just shouldn't be considered an access point.
I was just asking that from a width standpoint, as we've been talking about width for both trails and for driving in, pieces of equipment. So,
Yeah, it's a good question. Pam, the individual you said expressed concern about the width of the walkways. Was it they wanted them wider or not as wide?
Not as wide. So
And
there were
what
a
were
couple of concerns. The concerns with that asphalt was throughout the park, which I let her know that that's not the case at this point, that we've made some mindful changes. And that we were looking to, we had never stated in stone that the pathways were going to be 10 feet, but that we would certainly want them to be wider than Highland. So I guessed, and I told her that I would guess to say 6 to 8 feet would probably be something that the group would be looking at. And that, go ahead.
And what was the concern about having wider paths? Just too much asphalt, or?
Yes. And they were also concerned about where the gathering area would be, because it seems like it's right very close to the neighbors' yards. And I expressed the fact that going through this process before 2020, we only heard from a couple people, one neighbor that was very concerned about wanting to have some more trees to divide between his household and the park, which of course we were in agreement with, to do something to make sure there's a nice buffer. And they were concerned about the noise. This particular call was concerned about the noise. And I said, well, at this point, if you haven't heard any noise, because we're using that property similar to the way that we'll use it when it's all fixed up and cleaned up. We've had some bands there. We've had some gathering parties there in the meadow, if you will. So, I certainly encouraged her, as well as any other neighbors, to come on to the virtual meeting if they want to listen. They did listen to the last meeting. I don't see that anybody else is on right now, but so we had a nice conversation. And, I said, continue to stay involved, but I said nothing right now. We're still designing. We're still looking at the project as a whole. And, but we're all on the same page as to wanting to utilize the space that never gets utilized at the park right now. Okay, so what I thought, what else I'd like to add with the review and discuss updated quote is that we also discussed with Jen Montanaro and the rest of the group that I would go back and talk to Wayne Fox about whether or not we could, split the project so that the Darien Athletic Foundation could use their own vendor. And the conclusion to that is that, yes, if say the Darien Athletic Foundation had interest in constructing the boardwalk and the path that encircles the property. This is just an example. Encircles the property and connects to the boardwalk. Say that were to be a $800,000 project, or let's just say $1 million, and they were interested in that. They very well could branch off and do that project as a project A, and the town could take the other $1 million and do project B, and that would be okay. So it was good to hear that. So that's where we are with that question and answer. And I was hoping Jen would be able to make it today. I know that she did express to me that the high school has a couple projects that have gotten kind of reignited since before we had talked about partnering with Darien Athletic Foundation, that they, I think, are going to reconsider, which, we still have to figure out whether or not they're going to have any type of temperature with the group to want to still continue partnering with us. And I did speak with Lori about this too. And, you know, our thought is that we really want to move forward with this project and keep going, regardless whether, you know, there's interested parties or not. We feel like we're on this hamster wheel for quite a long time now, spinning and spinning. And we have some figures here. We can bring Dan back. I did talk to Dan realistically about how much it would cost to have him keep coming back here. So that's why he's not here today. He certainly will give us some time, you know, for quick questions, this and that. But, you know, in terms of him reworking all the numbers, he's going to have to start charging us for that. So.
So, I mean, so it sounds like, you know, it's good that it could be split, which is great if we do, you know, hear back from Jen. But I mean, I guess as a committee, we need to figure out with the numbers that Dan just gave us, the updated numbers, right, with the EPA, is this something that we need to float up to see if they don't support it, how the town can do it? Is that you said that you guys don't want to get off the hamster wheel? And so, have we taken the temperature with our Board of Selectmen about this number yet? Or should we? That's my question.
I think that's what we need to do. I think we need to start with the commission and say, this is the updated design. These are the changes that have been made. It appears at the moment that this is the price tag. Nothing's as fixed as we used to. It is unclear at this point whether we will have partners for this project or not. But, you know, if the commission determines that this is a project that we believe we should move forward on, then I think the next step would be to take it back to the selectmen to see if there's support, because that was basically the marching orders we got during the budget discussion, was that the numbers were too old and, you know, it did not necessarily have to be done in the budget cycle, and that we should really go back, revisit everything, given all the changes in the last few years, and then come back to them and say, okay, this is the price tag, and then we'll have to see what their appetite is and build, you know, with the commission's support, of course, build the case as to why we feel this is, you know, a good project for the community to take on. And then separately, if we can find partner or partners that will fund, you know, or help fund a piece of it, then that's terrific. But I don't know that I just want to stall, you know, waiting to see if somebody steps forward. I think we have to, as a, you know, commission and community, decide whether we want to really build out, you know, and expand the capacity of the park, which is what this is effectively doing, and then provide, you know, amenities that our master plan have told us people want.
The other thing I'd like to do too is give Sandy a chance to absorb the breakdown on this. So that if there's anything in here that he feels that some of our town equipment can do in terms of, say, even tree removal, tree trimming, that type of thing, you know, maybe that lowers it by only a mere 50,000, but I'd like him to have the chance to look at that and realistically let us know if there's some in-kind services that can do to reduce this.
Yep.
Could I suggest that we do a walking group meeting of this property together? Because it's been a while, maybe. Yeah, I mean, individually we've all been there, but it's always interesting when we walk as a group and really get other feedback. You know, we can carry with us the design, we can carry with us these costs, and then if Sandy is available, we could do it at that time. You know, I'm sure he'll add great value in feedback.
I think it's a great idea, Patty. I think it's, you know, you always, you know, when we're all together and you chat and you see things and you're right there, it really, really does help.
It makes a huge difference.
Yep.
So
we should warn the meeting. I talked to Chris today and she said, even, you know, if we're going down in small groups or whatever, it's best to warn the meeting and have an agenda.
Right. So would you like to stick with our regular meetings schedule and just do a walkthrough at that time? I know, or we could do a special meeting that fits in Sandy's day that we can do it, say at like 10 o'clock in the morning, 11, whatever is good for the group.
I mean, Pam, 3 o'clock is fine with me. I have no problem staying late.
Okay, so you're breaking up a little bit, Sandy. So 3 o'clock is good for you?
Yeah, I have no problem staying late. Fine.
Okay.
So when's the next meeting that would normally be scheduled? Do you have that in front of you?
Oh,
It's probably not for 3 more weeks. I don't know. Do we want to wait 3 more weeks? Just
That's what I was thinking. We should try and
get
get on this.
okay. So we're on the 10th right now, and yep, the Weed Beach Working Group, the next one is the 31st of May. So we could do it next Tuesday. Oh, no. I have interviews for the new position. Tuesday the 24th, which is be a week before our next meeting. I'm free on the 24th.
Okay, 24.
Could we just do the meeting in place of, like, just could be the meeting? Or do you want,
Just move
Just
it up a
rather-
week and talk on the other one?
move it up a week and just call it our meeting? Because that way, I just think we're not gonna wanna do 2 meetings back to back. You know, we could, what do you think? We could also do the walk, and maybe if you could reserve the paddle hut, if we need to sit and look at plans or sit down somewhere, could we reserve the paddle hut as the meeting?
Well, we
area?
could. I think the interesting thing though would be if we were going to get well, I don't know that I can definitely get Rick, but it would be really interesting to have someone like him talk about his material and boardwalk and how long they've had it, and the maintenance that they put into it. So that would be interesting for that meeting, but I'll do whatever you guys want to do.
I just think that, I know that I'm on a couple of committees too, and so is Patty. I just don't want to get meetinged out too much either, if you can get some feedback from him, maybe he can, give us some, and maybe report it to us, and then if we have follow-up questions. I think it's gonna be hard to catch him this time of year because it's warming up and he's probably trying to do his setup of the beaches and parks for the summer and
Right.
spring.
All right, I'll get the information from him.
Yeah, if you don't mind. And I wasn't going to be on I'm not here on the 31st anyway, because I'm out of town.
Okay.
So,
Okay, I'm out of town on the 24th, so
oh, you are? Okay, sorry.
that's okay.
But if we could do something in person sooner, just so we could just make sure we have a better handle about where the plan changed and
Is
specific
there a better
questions.
day for you, Adele?
Pardon?
Would there be a better day for you that might work for the whole group?
The 17th would have worked, but that does not work for Pam. So, yeah,
Isn't it?
no, not earlier than, no, I don't think so. I'm out of town starting the 19th, let's put it that way, 19th till probably the 30th or 31st. So do what you need to do. I can take my tour.
Yeah, I think if we have to, the 24th, if it works for everybody else. I
At
think
what
that
time, Pam? At 3 o'clock?
3 o'clock? Does that work for everybody besides Adele?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's do that. We'll plan the 24th for a walkthrough. And at that time, we will cancel the 31st and just go back into our regular scheduled meetings, which would be, the following would be, I believe, June 21. Let's see, yes, June 21. So it'd be about 3 weeks later, maybe a little bit more, but.
Yeah, and I mean, at that time, who knows? We might have new information on how our landscape changes in Darien, which will affect how everyone's thinking about our various parks and beaches. So that's why it's great that we go back down and do a walk and tour and really revisit, basically the things we want to enhance down there. Right. I mean, and also, we can start with little steps. Like was at Waveney for an hour yesterday walking, and we always talk about how they have done such a good job that they have their playground equipment in a circle all right next to each other.
Yes.
Same thing Stamford Cove, they have that. So we can begin to do some that aren't going to be item and start to, I don't know if that's specced out somewhere in that plan. So I think it'll just be a great reminder to walk all the way through. The grass area that you've cleared out, Pam, you know, that was so meadowy and that's cleared out with the picnic tables, it looks great. People using that down there. What I don't, and I know, you know, down along the beaches where the kayaks are, what I don't have a feel for is deeper in there, because I haven't really walked back deep in there in a long time. So that will be great to kind of get a feel. Oh, is this where like a pavilion would go? And as you
Right. That's all cleared out.
yeah. So if you could, I think we have the map. Did you send that out at our? I know your first meeting was just you, Susan, and Dan, for the three of you. What I consider the first meeting was our one a few weeks ago where it was all of us. So maybe if we can get an updated, we have this, the probable cause list or the probable opinion cost
Right.
the map, right? Did you send that map out to us, the design map? I can go
I
back
did.
and look.
Yeah,
Okay.
I did.
Then if
But
you send it to us with that last meeting, then I have it. Okay.
okay.
And then we can just print it out and walk, and that'll just the walking and asking questions, as you said, Lori. It prompts responses. It prompts, you know, Adele's going to remember something from a long time ago, or you, Lori, that maybe we don't know, or Susan, or right now. And then again, Sandy can give us, you know, from boots on the ground, what's hard to work around and what works for them.
Exactly. I think it's a great plan. I have a 4 o'clock meeting, so I just wanted to be mindful of that.
Pam, can you reach out to Jen and get a sense of where they're headed? We haven't,
Yes.
last meeting, you'd ask for maybe some feedback from them or some ideas on how they're feeling about the project. You know, just
Yes.
and let her know we're doing the welcome tour also.
Okay.
Yeah, it'd be great to have her. Good. Did she give you a sense of what she was talking about at the high school for what kinds of projects that they might be revisiting, or did she tell you?
We didn't get into the detail, but they're two, I think they're probably more achievable than this. And we didn't give her an answer yet on what the outcome of that question was for the town attorney. So I'll be able to talk to her about that as well. And she still hadn't gotten a full group together. But, you know, she senses that we're anxious to figure out whether they're going to be in or out.
Yeah, and maybe the one other thing is as you described, you know, that Wayne said we could do half of it, you know, they could do half of it. We might also want to think the flip. They don't do the front of the beach, right? Because the only thing I was saying, I mean, you know, they've done an amazing job with, you know, fields and a lot of different things in town. I still would be, if we were to do a boardwalk and we have to drill down on the beach, you know, I don't know if it makes sense to use someone that has done boardwalks like that on beaches, you know, and then they could work on the other aspects of the walk trail. It's just a thought on the flip side, and maybe they have, you know, maybe the guy who does all their work for them has. I just know, to my knowledge, there's no boardwalk in town, so.
That sounds
But I
good.
guess,
Yes.
right, they could help us with other parts of the trail or the pavilion or the, you know, where the meadow is. So I think there's options. When we walk through, I think we can get a feel for that, right? I see you shaking your head, Susan. Yeah. So that way, maybe they don't feel like, if they can't get their head around the front of the beach, but we still want them involved, we say, what do you think about the back end or the right side of it? So we don't lose a partner in it. Just a thought.
That sounds great. Okay, so just if you don't mind, Pam, just giving her the news about being able to sort of split the project and getting a sense if you're interested in doing that, if that is.
Yes. Yeah, will do.
Green light from town council, that's possible.
Okay.
Maybe hopefully you'll have an answer by our next meeting on the 24th. Great.
That'd be great.
And then once we get a better handle, we can then go to the commission, like Lori said, and you guys need to go to your committee and get an idea too, because obviously we do this together or not at all. So thank you very much for all your help. We really appreciate it. To our RTM colleagues.
Hang on just a sec, just before you go, since I'm not going to be with you on the walkthrough, just keep in mind how to, if necessary, somebody's really, maybe if some people could turn off their mics, that we might stop getting that feedback. If you could keep in mind where, yeah, that did it. Where you might be able to break it in segments, because people are going to support parts of it, and they may not be as enthusiastic about other parts of it. I realize you want to go for the whole thing, Laurie. I get it, but if you can visualize segments of it, we might have a better chance of getting it passed. So, my thoughts. Okay, so think about that as you walk around. To your point of the DAF and the walking trail, maybe that might be wonderful if they could do that, because maybe some parts of the RTM might not be as enthusiastic about supporting that. So anyway, that's my thought. Thanks.
Thank you, guys. I guess we should adjourn the meeting since we're probably going to lose Pam in a few minutes. But if anything else, if people want to reach out, just copy the group, because now we have a good email distribution list. And maybe we could discuss further at our next walking tour. All right, do you have something else, Patty, or you?
No, I'm writing it down, adjourning at 3:53.
Okay, well, let's adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much, everybody, for all your help and time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks
Bye.
for all your hard work.
Bye.
Happy post Mother's Day.